Okay, the question that we would like to answer from this topic is looking who is the previous tenant. So we have our list of properties here. We have five properties and we have our tenant names, we have a start date, and we have an end date. If you are a current tenant, in this case, let's say for property one, Michael, your end date is because you're still living in that property. Now, we would like to know, or we would like to answer, who is the previous tenant before Michael? And the answer is Taylor Walton. So that's what we're going to answer today using XLOOKUP. So not only for property one, but for all properties here from one to five. First thing that we need to do here is to fill up a column to identify that that particular tenant is the current tenant or not. Current tenant, we will just have a short formula is blank. Now, is blank this column here, end date, right? If the end date is blank, then therefore you are the current tenant. If that is not blank, then false or you are not the current tenant. So we just have to pull it down. So all that returns true, it means they are the current tenant from that particular property because they don't have yet an end date. Okay, now let's proceed to answering who is the current tenant and the previous tenant. So I already have my working file prepared here. I'll just click the plus sign. So first, we need to check or we need to find out the current tenant and their start date. Then second step, we are going to look for the previous tenant and the start date and the end date. Okay, let's go. We are going to use XLOOKUP for all the formulas that we're going to build today. Equal sign, Excel. Our XLOOKUP value is 1. I will discuss later why we are typing in 1, comma. Our lookup array is, we're going to have an open parenthesis because basically we're going to have two calculations here inside our lookup array. First would be this one, the property column. Highlight the property column. We would like to lock it up. Press F4 equals to this property number here. Okay. Close the formula, then multiply, open parenthesis again. Now our second array here would be letter E. Column here, which is the current tenant here. Highlight this column, press F4, then equals true, right? Close parenthesis, because we're looking for the current tenant. Let's say if you're the current tenant, then you should return true, comma. That's our whole calculations for lookup array. Our return array, what is the value that we would like to return is the tenant name. So we are going to highlight the tenant name column, press F4, close the formula, enter. So for property one, it's Michael. So we can drag the formula down. Let's check property two. It's Linda, Jason, and so on. Question, why did we input number one in our lookup array here? So let's try to evaluate the formula. So go to the formula, select first the cell, go to the formula, evaluate formula. We're going to click evaluate. Evaluate, let's click evaluate, evaluate. Now, those inside these calculations will be calculated as true or false depending on their logical calculations if that is equivalent to property one or if the current is returns true. That's why we're getting true and true, true here. The first four, which is this one here, property one, the first five returns true because that's those first five values are property one. So let's continue clicking evaluate. Now, if those two logical operation was met, it will return a value one. So in this case, value number one that was returned from that logical operations array is in the fifth row, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because our first logical operations is if this column is in property 1 and if this column here and date is, sorry, this one here, this column here. If the column E, current tenant, returns true. Now, if both logical operations met, then it will return 1. And that is the reason why we have 1 here. We're looking basically for that one single value, that the number 1. And that number 1 is the fifth row. And that is why Michael is returned on this cell. Let's close it. Now for this one, we are going to look for the start date equals XL. Our lookup value this time is the tenant name, comma. Our lookup array is the tenant column. Press step 4 and our return array is the start date. Highlight the start date, press step 4, close the formula, enter, and we just have to format this to a short date, and we can drag the formula down. So let's say Michael, the start date is December 10, 2023. Linda, it was March 2, 2024. So we're getting the correct start date. Okay, our next calculations is to find out the name of the previous tenant here before Michael French, who is our tenant. Okay, so again, it's going to be XLOOKUP equals XL. Our lookup value, again, it's going to be 1. Open parenthesis. Our first logical operations would be this property name because we need to check only for the property 1, right? We need to look only for that property name. Press F4 equals property 1. So we're only looking for the property 1 initially. So close the formula. I'll just be writing right here at the top. Then multiply, open parenthesis. Now, what we're going to, to look next is the start date. So we're going to highlight the start date is less than because that's the prior tenant should be less than the start date of our current tenant, right? Because if our current tenant starts on December 10, previous to that date, then therefore that particular tenant is the tenant before Mr. Michael Friend. Select list, start date, close the formula, comma. What is our return array? Our return array is the tenant name. Highlight, press step 4, of course, comma. So now we're going to fill in all the optional syntax here. If not found, you're just going to say not found, comma. Match mode is exact mode, exact matched, comma. Now our search mode here, we're going to search last to first, meaning it will it will search first from the bottom of our list, going up, right? So once it finds out this date here, let's say for example, property one or Mr. Michael. Once it founds the start date for Mr. Michael is December, then it will look for the next start date, which is September 26th. Okay, close the formula. So we are returning Taylor Walton, right? Before Mr. Michael, Taylor Walton was the previous tenant. So we can pull the formula down for Mr. Linda, who's the previous tenant, Jesse, and so on. Bethany. Now, since we still have two columns here, we can do similar XLOOKUP formulas to get the start date and the end date, or we can also do the dynamic arrays or the spill value um, formulas inside XLOOKUP. So we are going to, uh, instead of a return array only looking for one single column, in this case, only column B, we are going to change that. We are going to highlight B, column C, right? Because those are the three columns that we would like to return. Press step 4 and right, and then we'll just change this to a short date. So Mr. Taylor Walton, uh, September 26th, December 9th, that's correct. And we're just going to hold the formula down. Just format the formula. Okay, let's have a random checking. Daniel Owens, January 6, 24. So that's how to find out the previous tenant from our property list using XLOOKUP. Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.